Thank you for coming. Hello. It's hard to come in the morning and start the session after the banquet that I had in the evening. There's Andrey, Fedorov, and Andrey Hitrin and Alexander Fedorov. We're going to talk about the development that includes the procedures, the instruments for the encrypted procedures. Let's speak about what's happening in the procedural languages. They ended up as the extension of SPD a long time ago, and it seems like they're not going to disappear anywhere. We see two graphics on the slides. This is a long, complex composition index, and I will not talk about the calculation because it consists of the tens of the different factors. This is popularity index, not for Postgres, but for other language with a similar name. TOBA index for PL and SQL. It has some few procedure extension, and PL and SQL. Well, for these graphics, we see that everything was very popular before, but since the trend is still there for the last 10 years, so the plateau is very flat, and the popularity is still there, the interest is still there. So the development of the procedural languages is the topic for the discussion. I think at the presentation of Ivan Fralkov presentation, you heard that you need to make it very, very careful. And during other presentations, the people say, don't do any development, so that includes procedural languages. This is not correct way to do, and this is the hard way to do. This is only for the administration. But still it's there, and it's not going anywhere. So how does the development going? This is synthetic diagram with a cycle of the development from receiving of the initial code to its placement to the target environment. You need to get this initial code from the initial source. This was the tapes, then it was the diskettes, floppy disks, and now it's external storage for storing the codes. Then you need to agree with the compilator, and after you come to the agreement with the compilator, you need to place this code. What happens in case we have the development, the database development? What we receive this code from usually is the same place where we put it. So why do we develop? Why do we start the development? And how do we explain the development of the procedural extension? GSQL, PSQL, and we're closer to the database, and we can solve the problems and the errors quite fast. Who did that on Prodi when managers are running around and everything's on fire? That does happen now. That's been happening before, and for sure it will happen in the future. In case of the development, this 3P diagram on the database looks the same. We receive these procedures. In this case, what we receive can completely be different from the servers where we're going to place it if there is more than one server. So we keep on working, and everything depends on which server we are making the development. And then we place it or storage it. In our case, in Postgres case, where the procedures is quite independent development, can be different, the placement can be different, can be successful or non-successful, depending on where we storage it. Maybe there is some extension, is not there, some of the functions are disabled. How does the development look like in the huge society with a professional group of specialists, where we had the head of the group or the leader in the group? So let's get together at my place, let's get together at your place. I was on both places. I was in a specialist group, and I was the lead of such group before. So the second time, nothing happens. Nothing happens if it's my own scheme, if this is my table, and I add the field, and in this function I make small change in the declaration, and everything's gonna work. It's going to work. And after lunchtime, someone runs in, someone runs out, someone cries out, someone's, and I forgot that I've changed something. So, and I give it away to the leader of the group of specialists. And then after the checkup, who does the checkup for the PL SQL coding? Beautifiler, I don't do that. And nobody does that yet. Oh, there is one person. Oh, two persons who do the checkup. Then for you it will be very interesting. Then extremely interesting for you. What will save us? What is the instrument that we should have? No one actually said the name of that instrument, so we know why we named our integrated environment of the development in that way. So we wanted to implement it, so we had the tasks before us, and we decided to use the Eclipse platform, because Eclipse has been existing for 17 years, and there is a huge improvement. It was Java ATV, now it's SRP, and now it's Internet of Things. And Oracle gave it its enterprise, and lots of different languages that are supported. And more or less every serious vendor has the representatives, and tons of HDS for different language environment, downtimes, with the usage of Eclipse. So from the very beginning, started for the last 17 years, I'm participating in this, and so we didn't have much of a choice. So what are other advantages? So for those who like the modern technologies, we have Eclipse for LAMP and some sort of different language service and different streams. And since the source hierarchy, nobody can tell you who's the most important architect here. So the society makes sure that they know who that person is. So there are lots of subsystems that we used. It starts with a Windows system, Eclipse Windows system, and it's been developed and different widgets and workspace with its own virtual tree of resources such as projects, folders, and files. And they have the nature of the project with different artifacts of different nature, like Java files or C files. You can roll them out and specify their behavior. You have the builders, the version controller supporter, which is great framework compared to others. So you can name it. The only thing that we need to do is to think about this task, and then based on the Eclipse, we need to integrate into this. And as Andrey has said before, this is a different task compared to Java. With Java, everything's clear. Here we have a version control. Here we have the chains of tools, sometimes only in Java compile. And here's the deployment. Depending on and compared to the PGSQL, it's a different story. So we tried to think about it. So we came up with landscaping that our is going to call an elephant, no, something they call Xobot in Russian. And the chains of these instruments for the trunk, they call it a trunk, elephant trunk. So in Eclipse, we made a new nature and we embedded it into landscape. So we added some builder, which is very easily implemented in Eclipse, and we also made the following. We used one of the features of Eclipse, and we changed the file system into the virtual one, which is storage in the disk, but we can't tell. We are not going to tell you where. so that you don't get there with your favorite VI and don't get up the SQL update. So, so this is still in the discussion. So in principle, Eclipse has its internal storage of the stories that are being changed, local stories. So we want to add up a region GR from your local. So everything is correct and nothing can be done which others users will not know. So you cannot do anything secretly unless you want to publish it. And further on, since it's being alive maybe it's a complex environment, we made the repository, and as Andrey have said, so guitar is not enough. We need the context. Into this composite repository, we add not only controller version, but like a clone, but also your targets. So your receivers, the schemes with which you continue or you are going to integrate. And in the end, we integrated it partially into the system synchronization and in more detail about the resources and the receivers. So I think you understand what it's all about, who keeps the procedures and the control system versions. This is not so bad as we thought it could be. And who doesn't? Well, that happens. So we support this source as a database, and this is the reason why we cannot keep you. If you use your dark practices, we cannot leave you behind. And the file system, and I'll explain you why, not only to keep everything in the folders that are named certain numbers like all people did, but we need to get in a common line, so we need to fit into other lines of the instruments. And our receivers is the scheme of, we need something to pour, and the repository, the file systems, they can change some places in the scenarios. And the chain, toll chain, has been used for a longer period of time. And for us, these are the processors, the checkups, formatters, compilers, some other devices like processors or post tests. So our purpose is to come and stand between the developer and production scale as the basically the wall in between, and get this innovation basically to the coding from the developer and make it easier. So we get together, I see the screenshot, how it's all compiled together. We see, you can see that we specified the receivers and the sources, we highlighted them with a different coloring, and we said mature. Production is red, integration is green, and so on. So you can change the colors, but just for the purpose of friendly reminding, like our friends say, down below we have the results of the builder. So it tells you that the project where there is no integration stand, it's not a good project. You do not need to set it up. First, you need to make up your mind where integration stand is, and then we'll continue our discussion. And there are some also recommendations. So it's better to get the stable stand, the official one, but it is not necessary. There can be the prototype base. On the right side, we have Explorer. And further on, we have the integration to the system of comparison, when we can compare the repositories with the scheme, not maybe fully, but still we retrieve the metadata with the help of grammar, and then we have the signature of the functions, and then we go through GBC, and to the same interface we get some function description, the same signature functions. So we compare two things that are represented in different way, but logically they should be in one and the same instance, because I'm working with one and the same thing, but in different physical appearance. So comparison is not the part, but semantic comparison. We work with Postgres, and we all know that I came with what, a for or integer, and so on. Yes, we use the on the layer what we keep up from the disk and GTAR, but and then we compare it to what we upload to the schemes. Postgres does not keep the headers, as you know, in the view, so we bring them up and we make the comparison. Yes, I don't know who's familiar or not familiar with Eclipse. We have this share project when we give it to the repository and we control. So we made localization. That's a we friendly give you the trunk, so to say, and for you to take it. Xobot. So this is the comparison demo. This is the functions for comparison from your current workspace state status with mature status. So you have production stand. You can compare it what's been done before you poured it in, and so on. And here's our synchronization, how it's operating, how it's running. You see the text in English, or you can get a Russian version, but we translated this one to show where we are and where the foreigners are. So this is it. The time is up. So this is how it looks. I'll open my workspace to show you that our projects are on the disk for sure, but we use them with the header just to get the feeling that there is no way for you to get them, but of course you can. But, so the questions. So the question is, the Eclipse in particular, do you use any other plugins for the other environments? It's possible. I showed you in one of the slides when we organize our society for case with Alvaro. We have made an agreement. He promised to continue this work, working with us. So we do, which is fast, and this integration into Eclipse. If there is an initiative to make it for other environments, yes. How can we forbid doing that? Well, Eclipse is quite heavy. You need lots of resources on your machines, on your equipment. Eclipse is quite heavy. Yes, I've heard that, but I think it's the topic for the statement can be discussed. As an example, for plugin for JPrice, for instance, that could be integrated in a JPrice, and we'll do the same. Nothing's complicated. JPrice is a very weak platform. I've been using this on slides, and I know that initial base. But if they bring me lots of money and they ask me to do that for them, of course I will go over my principles and I'll do that for them. Thank you. This topic was very interesting. What do we do with dependencies between tables, representations? That's a great question. And also dependencies, the most painful ones, between the functions, dependencies between the functions. These are two great questions. So we are working on the client side. We're trying to integrate it into the platforms, and we have the plan for the development, for the prehistory. Just to tell you, there are two reasons why we do not invest into this, because we do not know what we've been. But the previous conference we did work on the debugging. Then we need a support for on the server side that it's not clear how, but I want to repeat it again. In our project we have all your context, so we know what the server scheme you have, so we can retrieve all these information. Now it's a declare level. Now we are checking the concept of how much interest is there from the site. Second question, how do we put it in PG.Keeper? No, it's not connected anyhow. It's you have same approach actually, similar approach I would say. In principle, I want to repeat again, everything is in a resource, everything is in patches. It's all represented in repository. So you have the commit niche that I can upload and I can test it and try. No, we don't have no community. But we planted. We have our own system, resource system. For licensing control and Eclipse, for instance, I have my own project into this. And when we build it in, it will be controlled. A part of the scenarios will be free. The licensing doesn't mean that if there is licensing, you have to pay for it. So I want to just highlight that. You can use that for free. Yes, your report, your presentation on the last day of the conference touched some painful spots, so to say. I used it for paper, which is ideal thing when we choose the scheme from the base. We create the project, dependencies with everything, and then we try to tune it to the queries of the client and see what are the weak points. But this is something that you are working on. This is great, and this is dependencies between the functions. That'd be great. Speaking about dependencies they depend on the scheme. No, I cannot agree with you. I have some schemes of X like applicable, and someone, not me, I'm the architect, I'm a system architect. And someone made the function that in its way is dependable from some of the bases. So I changed the signature, and by accident, and everything fell off. So for this not to happen, yes, so unfortunately we do not have time for the discussion, but we are still here, so if you're interested and talk to us and continue this discussion, you are very welcome. Do you have the logo with the elephant trunk or a logo with a trunk with an elephant? Please show us if you have the logo. Okay, here it is. Here's the trunk. Thank you. I want to remind you that for the round table, we still need to vote for the presentations.